Okay, so I have another build that I kind of wanted to show. It's basically the ultimate Titan tank build, in my mind, at least if you count tankiness as overshields. That is how I would classify it. So basically, still doing top tree void for the overshield on melee, which is just awesome. And then I'm running War Mines, which is why I have 7th Seraph Carbine, because that makes War Mine cells. Also, it fits into this week's Nightfall with anti-barrier, well, all season actually. And then SALVAGE'S Salvo for arc damage and unstoppables. And Heir Apparent is kind of the star weapon of this build, obviously, because of with the catalyst. The shield is like 4 times as strong as without the catalyst. And I have noticed the second part of the catalyst kick in where it refills partially your magazine. I have noticed it kick in, and it is kind of nice. It's not something I'd rely on, but it's, it's cool. And then, so for armor, obviously I'm doing ICEFALL MANTLE. Because that is an overshield on demand, so it kind of fits in with the whole theme. Charged up for extra stack of charge with light, and champion mods are here, and that's all I can fit in this armor. So basically, the whole build, there's 6 total sources for overshields, which is kind of crazy. So I'll start with the helmet. Obviously, resilience, machine gun ammo finder, since a lot of the build revolves around Heir Apparent. Having more ammo and thus more shield is always good. So sheltering energy, I've been playing around with this mod. I've never really used it before, but it actually is pretty cool because it's essentially a free overshield every 4 or 5 kills, normal kills, as long as your teammates don't shoot it anyway, which I've had happen all the time. So, but as long as you run over it, it gives you an overshield. So that's pretty cool there. Obviously, ICEFALL, pop an overshield. You can't double jump, you can't sprint, but at least in this week's Nightfall, there's no jumping puzzles, so it doesn't really matter too much. And then on my chest, I have taking charge, just recharged light, machine gun reserves, again, more Heir Apparent uptime, which is always better. Damage resistance mod, which again helps staying alive. Resilience mod. For boots, I'm kind of keeping the same setup as my Saint 14 build, but better already. Again, pick up an orb, your health starts regenerating, very nice. Scavenger for that Heir Apparent, once again, and then Protective Light. So basically, I'm running Protective Light and War Mine kind of mixed. I'm only doing Taking Charge, Charged Up, and then Protective Light, so 3 total stacks of Charged Light, and then Protective Light is the only thing that uses it, so you will always have that kind of emergency damage resistance if all your shields break. And then finally for class item, I'm doing Bulwark Finisher again. That's another source of an overshield. Good in a pinch. I just threw Perpetuation on there because why not? But you could also throw on one of these seasonal mods too, but there's no overloads, so I'm just doing this. And then finally War Mine's Protection, which you take reduced damage from enemies that are near War Mine cells. That also contributes to damage resistance on your side. And can give you the opportunity to, if you drop a War Mine cell, the enemies are kind of debuffed, you can run and grab the cell and get an overshield, or you could just leave the cell up and have kind of a passive debuff in the room. So yeah, that's pretty much the build. So just to summarize, you have top tree void melee for overshield, you have running over War Mine cell, you have ICEFALL Mantle, you have Heir Apparent, you have Bulwark Finisher, and then obviously Bubble. So that's 6 different ways you get overshield. And then damage resistance mods in your chest, which you could swap reserves out for a different damage resistance mod. That's up to you. I chose reserves since, that's more Heir Apparent, which is the strongest overshield you have, pretty much, aside from Bubble. 3 stacks of Protective Light. If all your shields fail, you still have that kind of last line of defense. And in my experience messing around with this, it's really fun. You obviously can't be reckless still. You still have to be a little careful. You have to think ahead and plan to use overshields instead of just panicking with them. You can kind of panic with ICEFALL if you have a charge, but even then you lose mobility, so if you're still taking heavy damage, it can still bust through. For example, you would pop ICEFALL in cover and then step out and engage. Or if you're taking damage, you would take cover, then pop ICEFALL instead of just like running into a bunch of enemies and popping ICEFALL and expecting everything to be okay. Unfortunately, Destiny is not Doom in that way. But you can weaken enemies with Warmind cells and a primary weapon, and then that gets you in for a melee or a finisher, you know, Overshields for either of those. Heir Apparent did definitely save me a few times on Master Nightfall, where I had it fully spun up, and I had like 10 thralls attacking me, and they just didn't kill me. So that was, you know, pretty awesome feeling, just sitting there with a machine gun, mowing down enemies, and they're all meleeing me, and I'm just not dying. However, you definitely have to have it spun up before you get attacked, so if you see enemies coming, you might want to whip out Heir Apparent and start spinning it up, because it will not save you if you're actively taking damage, unfortunately. Now, what you can do is you can pop ICEFALL and then spin up Heir Apparent. That works pretty well. And then you have the double Overshield. You can also do a Bulwark finisher, and then ICEFALL, pop ICEFALL, and you can do that in any order, and then you get shielded ×2, then you spin up Heir Apparent, and then you have triple Overshield, and you're pretty much unkillable in that spot. I've found you can just straight up sit in front of the boss and just hammer her with Heir Apparent for like 30 seconds or even a minute before you have to actually move. So it's quite amusing. Not the most practical, but again, this whole idea of the build is just about spamming Overshields and being just a titan meat sack that just doesn't give a shit about damage. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I had. I kind of made a white sort of themed titan to fit the ICEFALLs, and painted the guns as such. So yeah, just a fun idea to try, and let me know if you like it or have a different idea, maybe different mods. I considered reactive pulse, but the arc energy is kind of weak, so I figure it's better just to run something else. But yeah, anyway, let me know if you like it, and thanks for watching.